Thank you, Ms Miller. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. I'm genuinely grateful to my honourable friend, the member for Henley, for bringing forward this important and clearly also the important debate, which is clearly of interest to honourable and right honourable members from every part of the House. And I'm grateful for the informed and passionate contributions that have been made. Getting our approach right to Iran is of incredible importance. And it is clear from how well attended today's debate is that there is a strong feeling on this issue right across the House. And those feelings have been expressed today. I would, before I go on to address the points, as many of the points raised as I can, I think it is right, and it's been mentioned by a number of people in the House today, that our criticism, and criticism unfortunately will come, our criticism is not of the Iranian people. These are a people, this is indeed a country with a fantastic history, a marvellous heritage, a tradition in the arts, the sciences, and my honourable friend, the member for Southend West, says that he has spoken in critical terms about Iran for 4 decades, and hopes that in the near future he will be able to speak in positive terms about Iran. And I absolutely echo that. And there is so much potentially that could be spoken of in positive terms about Iran. But unfortunately, in this speech, this afternoon, today, we find that we are more critical than speaking in praise. And it saddens me that that is the case, but nevertheless, that is the situation that we find ourselves in. The government's priorities, Ms Miller, are to, with regard to Iran, are to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran, to promote stability and security in the region, and to secure the permanent release of all detained dual British nationals. My right honourable friend, the Foreign Secretary, has consistently made clear that we favour a diplomatic solution which addresses the international community's concerns over Iran's nuclear programme and in parallel seeks to address its destabilising behaviour both in the region and also its behaviour to its own people within its borders. President-elect Biden has said that if Iran returns to compliance with the JCPOA, the US would re-enter the agreement and seek both to strengthen and extend it. This is an important opportunity to restart the engagement between Iran and the United States of America and to realise the full set of objectives set out in the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which we support. In the meantime, we remain clear that Iran must reverse its systematic non-compliance with the nuclear commitments under the JCPOA. We are deeply concerned by Iran's actions, in particular its research and development and stockpiling of low-enriched uranium, which is in breach of the terms of the nuclear deal. If Iran is serious about the JCPOA, it must not implement the recent law passed by the Iranian parliament to take further steps in violation of the JCPOA. That would undermine the important opportunity to return to diplomacy that the incoming US administration has offered. Iran has a choice, and we strongly urge it to take the sensible, pragmatic choice of moving back towards diplomacy. Our objectives remain to use the structures set out under the deal to address Iranian non-compliance and to reopen the door for re-engagement with the United States. We have not yet exhausted the dispute procedures set out in the JCPOA. To advance these discussions, the Joint Committee of the JCPOA will be held on the 16th of December at official level, followed shortly afterwards by a ministerial meeting of the JCPOA participants. Iran must engage on a route back to compliance through the Joint Commission as an essential step to rebuild confidence in Iran's commitments to preserving the deal. Alongside E3 partners, France and Germany, we have worked hard to preserve this deal. It currently remains the only way to monitor and constrain Iran's nuclear program. A number of right honourable members have mentioned snapback. We maintain the ability to snap back UN sanctions on Iran, and we have made clear to Iran that they must remain in compliance in order to preserve the deal. We will continue to support this deal for as long as it provides the benefits that I have mentioned. We will engage with the incoming Biden administration to see if we can strengthen and extend the deal further to address the non-nuclear malign activity that Iran exercises against its regional neighbours. Because I share their concerns, and indeed the concerns expressed today, about the continued risk of escalation in the region. A conflict is in none of our interests. We continue to urge Iran to show constraint, to show restraint, and to avoid any actions that might escalate tension in the region. And we echo those calls to its regional neighbours. We have long been clear about our concerns over Iran's destabilising activity in the region, including, as has been mentioned this afternoon, its political, financial and military support to a number of militant and proscribed organisations and groups, including Hezbollah in Lebanon and in Syria, and militias in Iraq and the Houthis in Yemen. I will.
I thank the Minister for giving way. He's very generous. And does he see a role possibly for Magnitsky sanctions in any particular financial facilitation of perhaps assisting those sorts of groups external to Iran so that we can use the might of the City of London to clamp down on any illegal use of facilitating that kind of activity?
I thank the honourable lady. She makes a very good point. And let us be crystal clear. Iranian support for these groups contravenes UN Security Council resolutions, breaches international law. We currently hold Iran to account through over 200 EU sanctions listings, which are currently in place, including against the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in its entirety. And she mentions our new autonomous Magnitsky-style sanctions, as have a number of honourable and right honourable members. All I can say at this point is we have heard her and their calls. Members and right honourable members will understand, I am sure, that we never discuss future designations under our autonomous sanction regimes to prevent the risk of individuals removing assets that we might seek to freeze. But the calls for us to review the actions of members of the Iranian regime in light of this sanction regime, as I say, have been heard and noticed. And we continue to support the enforcement of UN prohibitions on the proliferation of weapons to non-state actors in the region. And we're committed to work with regional partners, the E3 and the US, to find a solution to Iranian proliferation in the region. But our concerns are not limited to Iran's nuclear program or regional behaviour. And a number of members, including the Honourable Member for Strangford and others, have highlighted Iran's actions to its own people and its minority communities. Iran's heavy-handed response to protests, its restrictions on freedom of expression, freedom of freedom of belief, freedom of religion, its use of the death penalty and its continued use of arbitrary detention, including to dual British nationals, remain of deep concern to the UK, and we remain opposed to them. We continue to make clear to the Iranians our concern and opposition to their repeated, persistent violation of human rights. And I can assure the House that the safety, and it's been mentioned by a number of members, I can assure the House that the safety and good treatment of all dual British nationals in detention in Iran remains a top priority for the UK government, and we will continue to lobby at all levels for the immediate and permanent release of all dual British nationals in arbitrary detention, so that they can return home to the safety of their country and to the embrace of their loved ones. The Foreign Secretary recently summoned the Iranian ambassador to hand over a letter from E3 foreign ministers expressing our concerns about the grave human rights violations in Iran, as I say, including the arbitrary detention of dual nationals. We're deeply concerned that Iran has issued new charges against Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe. These are indefensible, unacceptable, unjustifiable, and we have been consistently clear that she must not return to prison. The UK government, from the Prime Minister downwards, remains committed to doing everything we can for her and the other dual British nationals held in detention. To conclude, Ms Miller, we want to see a peaceful and prosperous Iran. We want to see an Iran that is famous for its art, for its culture, for its history, not for its destabilising influence in the region and the world. We want to see an Iran that does not pose a threat to the UK, to our friends and allies.
For giving way. Obviously, many colleagues have so far mentioned the need for prescribing the IRGC. So will my right honourable friend commit to working cross-government but also cross-party to make sure that this sensible, credible plan moving forward is adopted?
I thank my honourable friend for raising this point. I cannot give him clarity on that from the floor of this debate today. But I do recognise that these calls have come from every corner of the House, and that there is cross-party support for this. And again, this will be noted, and I genuinely take his and other members' positions seriously on this. We want to see Iran abandon its intentions to develop nuclear weapons, but we also want to see it act as a good neighbour and a responsible regional power. We want to see it end arbitrary detention, and we want to see it improve its domestic human rights record. And the United Kingdom government will continue to engage with international partners and directly with the government of Iran to bring this about. We have to understand that our approach needs to be based on a number of elements, including engagement and incentives, but also pressure delivered bilaterally, through partners, and multilaterally. And the future relationship between the UK and Iran and its regional partners could be an infinitely better one than we see at the moment. But ultimately, it is in the gift of the leadership in Tehran to make that happen, and I urge them in the strongest terms to take the actions to do so. Thank you.